Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hope Sessions podcast with me, Jerry D. Today I've got two very special guests. One of them is a returning guest, Ronan, and the other one is a first-time comer to the podcast, the wonderful Natasha. But before they say hello and all that stuff, I'm going to take a moment because Hebrews 13:7 talks very clearly about honoring people and the example they are to you in the faith. So for me, it's quite simple. Ronan, right? Ronan's been on the podcast before, but I really want to take this moment to let you know that I was once Ronan's youth leader, and now we're both youth leaders together. And for me, it's quite interesting how our friendship, I suppose, started. It just kind of happened. It evolved. It got strong very quickly. We're actually we're polar opposites in terms of a lot of ways of what we like, what we don't like. But I thank God for just the man he is to me. Ronan has come on board and been a great blessing to me just with my videos. There's been a lot of videos. The online experience that happened during the COVID lockdown actually wouldn't have happened without him. And I don't want to discredit anyone else that was involved, but legit, he ran the video side of it, the media, put it on social media and all that. He's been involved in many videos. I've got a video called Dear Mom, a video called Hidden Clicks, and another very good video that I love called Broken and Bruised. And I want you to know, you may say, oh, but sure, it's grand, he came on and done a video, but this is a guy who is in full-time college, working in a relationship, running practically many different things in the church, and yet gives up of his time to be a blessing to me. It is effortless to honor him. I have done it to him many times in public, but I also want to do it on my podcast so that you guys know that he's not just a random Joe that came off the street because I needed a guest to be on the podcast. I wanted him to be on the podcast, and he agreed. And that's Ronan. But now Natasha, right? I have a video called Picture Perfect, okay? And in the video, there's a scene where I throw a mirror at a pillar to smash the mirror, right? And then then it quickly transitions to a shot where Tasha is running over to the glass and screams as she sees the broken mirror. But what you won't see is that on the first take of that shot, Tasha ran over and Tasha slipped on the debris or whatever it was, glass or something on the floor, and she actually cut her hand. And Tasha, back then, I didn't know how to put a plaster on people. So I want to apologize for the injuries you sustained to the glory of God. Do you know, and like for me, I remember at the start, you had this, I suppose, this like probably poker face look, for a lack of a better term. And I genuinely didn't even know if you liked us. Like as a friend, it was just like, hi Tash, how are you? It was fine. I was like, this girl clearly doesn't want to talk, or I'm just clearly not funny. Do you know, and I'm a massive fan of wrestling. I think anyone that knows that knows this. And my second, so my first favorite wrestler is Shawn Michaels. My second one is The Undertaker. The Undertaker is known as the Dead Man, okay? And he's known for having this signature skill called the eye roll movement. And I believe he got the eye roll movement from Natasha. She does it better than he does. And I say all that to say that because the two people opposite me today on a Zoom, I honestly can say that they will always have my time, my attention, and my support. And guys, I'm quite privileged to have you both on the podcast episode. So after all that intro, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
Shay.
Awesome. I love how you both said that synchronized. I was like, thank you.
It was planned.
yeah, we already planned all this.
Wow. It's not like you're in youth ministry, and you know what I mean? Guys, we're going to jump into a rapid fire round, right? And I always say rapid fire round, but it's never really rapid. It'll be a casual fire round, whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to switch it up. Tasha, I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions about Ronan. And Ronan, I'm going to ask you rapid fire questions about Tasha. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
Boom. Tasha, you're up first. Does Ronan like Netflix or Disney Plus more?
Oh, I'd say Disney Plus.
Okay.
He watches that more.
Because of Marvel and Lord of the Rings. Oh, no, not Lord of the Rings, Star Wars and all that.
I think so.
If anyone that follows Ronan on Instagram, right? Apart from Cork Church, what church does he absolutely love sharing?
I think I'm gonna have to go to Times Square Church. I just have a feeling that it's Times Square Church.
Yeah, I'm convinced that he's after getting a contract slipped on the side
Yeah,
just
like
to help him.
somewhere. Yeah.
I can neither confirm or deny.
All right, designs by Ruben. Is Ronan a morning or a night person?
Oh,
Wow.
I actually don't know. The reason I'd say morning is because like he can get up and like have his breakfast and like before he needs to go somewhere, it's like an hour. He'll give himself like an hour and a half to like enjoy his morning or whatever. I can't do that. So like I would say he's a morning person.
Okay. And we know that Ronan has this fascination with Marvel in particular. Okay, so this is a two-part question. Who is his favorite Marvel character?
That one I actually don't know. I think I would say like I feel like it's changed. I don't think he's had the
Always the
same
same.
one. Okay, I'm just gonna guess. Can I ask a question? Are they like still around
Yeah,
in the MCU
Yeah.
to this day?
yeah.
They're still here.
They're still here.
I'm gonna say Thor. I don't think it is though.
Mm-mm.
Iron Man?
No, it's Spider-Man. I don't know why I did
Yeah.
that. In case you didn't know, that's what Spider-Man does.
He was
Yeah,
getting too personal there with it, you know?
That
And
makes sense now. Who says that?
Off the back of that, Tash, like, so obviously we all have, Ronan has characters he likes.
I
But
did
if there's
like
one, what you would say, who is his least favorite Marvel character?
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, definitely. I hate her. Like
that one was easy because every time she shows up on a screen, I feel the hate and the
that
anger.
or She-Hulk. They're just
Okay.
I won't
Right.
go.
Moving swiftly on in case Ronan gets a bit too personal. Right, this is another two-part question, Tash, and this is the last one. What is Ronan's favorite food type and then his least favorite food type?
Food type.
Yeah, like
Like food
meal
type.
or, you know, if you were going for food, where does he absolutely love to go?
Oh, no. I would say like his favorite type of food or cuisine is Indian.
Okay.
So like we don't ever go there, but like I'd say like Haveli or something. He really
Okay.
like Haveli.
Yeah.
Or not but his least favorite type. That one I'm not like 100% certain on. Ron's very picky, like so like there's not like it's not like there's one thing that he doesn't
I
really
would
like.
say like Irish food, you know, like stew and like stuff like that. I don't really like stew.
Okay.
But I do
Right.
like a good roast though. So it's
Oh.
depends.
Yeah. I love how defensive you got there. Like you felt like you just had to take over Natasha's rapid fire round. Like I took that personal, whether she did
To
or
be
not.
honest though, I wouldn't have guessed the Irish food. But like I know Indian is definitely the one he likes.
Yeah. So Natasha, congratulations. The pressure is off. Now we're going to put the pressure on this guy here, the scholar, the infamous, the notorious Ronan McBreezy. Bro, you ready?
Yeah.
I did well, by the way. So I'm just surprised to see how this one
I
went out.
do.
Yeah.
Can I say something just to interject real quick? I think you've done fantastic, but knowing the sort of guy that Ronan is, like he'll naturally go, yeah, you could have said that one a bit better. How she is not that one, you know. So like you can have that discussion offline. I don't want to be getting into this, right? Breezy, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Natasha's favorite clothing brand.
Zara.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zara or Jordans. Like
Jordans as in the shoe
Zara, but
brand.
Jordan's is the shoe brand.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
look.
to someone who doesn't know his clothing, but Zara is the answer.
But they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't buy
But they're
off
not
that.
known for clothes.
Yeah, I wouldn't
That
buy.
is
Go to Zara for
I
shoes.
don't even have a piece of Jordan clothing.
We'll say Zara. Scrap the second answer.
Wow. Right. Breezy, what is Natasha's favorite movie series?
Oh, the Hunger Games.
Okay.
Yeah.
What has been Natasha's favorite holiday that she's been on so far?
I think Australia and
Uh,
Italy and Zambia, like all those three.
I actually he's asked me that question before, and I haven't given him an answer because I don't have one.
Okay.
See, that was unfair, so I just had to go with the best guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ronan, is Natasha a morning or a night person?
Night person.
Good
Yeah.
answer. And lastly, Spotify or Apple Music for Tasha?
Apple Music, all them. No, I'm joking. Spotify.
Wow. I was about to activate my defensive mode there for Spotify. I was like,
No, no,
oh, you're
no.
joking me, right?
No, I
Wow.
don't own Apple Music. I only have
Spotify.
Spotify.
Okay. So guys, you've done the rapid fire round and you've both done very well. But
You did better though.
I'll let you take that offline because I have a surprise round. Okay.
Okay.
So this podcast episode particularly is on the topic of friendships. You're on this because you're my friends. So I'm going to do a surprise rapid fire round with
Of
you
you.
both about questions about me.
Oh, wow.
Right? Ready to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite artist, music artist.
I would have
KB.
said Lecrae. I'm joking, KB.
Bro.
And we know who's the better friend, like just off of that
I
question.
know it's
Yeah.
KB.
Yeah, no, it's KB.
My favorite Marvel movie. And I've said this several times.
Captain America, the first Avenger.
Well done. My favorite boxer.
Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
My favorite NBA team. Who do I support?
See, I'm not going to answer this question because I don't know a single NBA team.
The Golden State Warriors.
I probably would have said like the Lakers or
Steph
something.
Curry's team.
And
Steph.
off
Yep.
the back of this, on my story on my Instagram, I share this team 5 or 6 times every week. Who's the NFL team that I support?
The one that is it the one that what's his face? Tom Brady. Is that his name? Face. Is that his name?
Is it the Chiefs?
No.
Spot on.
I
Do you
don't
know that
know.
It's always just a guess.
American football. Is
I
that
I wear his t-shirt, I wear his jersey. I have made
the one
mention
with
of
the
him.
Bulls, isn't it? No.
No, he's with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh.
I
Sorry.
was gonna say the Buccaneers. That's the only two. I know the Seahawks as well, and that's about it. I know 3 teams.
We'll keep Tom Brady in Tampa. Tom Brady's okay out there. We don't want him back. He's
Alright.
unfortunately, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say this. I think the best thing that's happened to him is that he got a divorce because he's playing so much better now, which is
Yeah,
quite
but
harsh to say.
He's old now. He's
Yeah,
probably
but he's got all he has to do is throw the ball, so he can play much longer than someone in an outfield position where they have to run up and down. He just has to throw the ball. So, but yeah, guys, congratulations. You clearly don't know enough about me if you didn't get my NFL team right, but I'll personally hold a grudge for the next 10 years. Moving swiftly on, this is the Hope Sessions podcast. I know you guys because I get to wreck your heads every week, every time I see yous.
Yeah.
I know your story because I've heard your story in many different ways, through conversations and stuff. But maybe our guests don't know who you are. So whoever wants to go first, would you both share your testimony for about 3-5 minutes, whichever you feel? Let us know who you are, how the Lord came into your life.
You can go first.
All right. So my name is Ronan, and I'm 22 years old. So I think I became a Christian when I was about 5 or something. Like my parents would every night they would read me Bible stories and pray with me and stuff like that. And I went to church like ever since I was born and going to the different events that the church had on and stuff like that. So I was always around Christianity.
Yeah.
And then my dad would always tell me about God and Jesus and heaven. And then one night he was explaining to me about how Jesus is our savior and you can invite him into your life and you'll become more like him and just, yeah, all about that. And then he asked me if I wanted to invite Jesus into my life, and I did when I was 5 years old. And then also, I remember when he was telling me that we'll become more like Jesus, I thought that he meant we'll start to look more like Jesus, like physically. I was really confused by that. But then as I got older, I soon realized that that's not what it means.
Wow.
Then, yeah. And then after that, we moved down to Cork, and primary school was okay. We moved out, my dad became a pastor in Cork Church. And then I went every Sunday and Wednesday, went to kids club and just learned the Bible stories from there and just more about God and Jesus. And then I went into secondary school, and that's when it became kind of hard because I wanted to fit in, and it was hard to be a Christian too.
Yeah.
And you wanted to say the right things, and you didn't really want to tell people that you were a Christian just in case of what they thought.
Sure.
So I started to fit in, and like I started saying the wrong things and just thinking the wrong things too. And yeah, just not right. And
Yeah.
then I remember that year, then we have a conference called Summer Fire, a national Christian conference. And one of the last meetings in the youth services, I remember, I think it was Patrick, he was preaching, and then he invited us up to the altar for, I can't remember what the altar call was for, but I think it was to get right with God again. And I went up and I just broke down crying, and I just asked God to help me stand for him again and live for him again. And over secondary school, it was just a lot of up and down, like trying to fit in again and then going back and repenting and setting things right with God again. And yeah, there was just a lot of that. And then, yeah, then after secondary school, I went into college, and by the end of secondary school, like people knew that I was a Christian, and I wasn't scared anymore to stand up for my faith, or I wasn't scared to live for him, and I wanted to live for him, and I've decided to live for him. So he's just taken me on an amazing journey. He's got me involved in ministry. He gave me gifts to play the keyboard and the synth, and I got involved with worship, and yeah, it's just been amazing. So it's worth it to live for him because it's an adventure. That's a summary of my testimony.
That's class. I love, man, the fact that you literally just closed your testimony in a nutshell there. You said that it's so worth it following Jesus because it's an adventure, and you've been on that adventure. You know, you've learned about how to share your faith going through school. As you know, there's different stages of school where, you know, we feel like we want to fit in and be accepted and all that stuff. We all still do, but in different ways. And I'm so thankful, man, that you have journeyed through that, because now you're in youth ministry, and everything that you've experienced as a teenager going through secondary school, the Lord will now and is now using that for you to better relate to some of the young people in our youth ministry and help them as they clash head on with some of these issues that you've journeyed through in secondary school, man. And I love the fact that you've just shared your story so well. You really have. And it's awesome to know that behind every name there's a story.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important. Sometimes you see, you go, oh, look at him, he's a Christian 10 years, but like, he doesn't live on cloud nine. He lives on level playing field called Earth. You know, he is a human, which means emotions, problems, good times, bad times. And I think that's the beautiful thing that you've shared, that it wasn't just this, you know, sometimes you hear these glorified testimonies where I'm following Jesus and everything is good. And I'm like, I don't know what Jesus you're following, because I'm clearly not following him, you know. So it's been awesome to know that. And Tash, would you do the same for us, girl? Would you share a bit of your growing up and what it was like coming to faith in Jesus?
Yeah, so just like the same as Ronan. Well, first of all, my name is Natasha, even though we said that so many times. I'm 19 and born and raised in Cork. Parents are from Zimbabwe. And like the same as Ronan, I grew up with Christian parents. So we went to church every Sunday. To me, like, it's foreign to not go to church on a Sunday. You know, it's just something that we grew up in, and it's how my parents raised me. And I say, like, my journey with the Lord properly began, or as far as I can remember, when I turned 10. I was 10 years old, and it was a simple moment. I just asked my mom, like, to bring me to the Lord. I think that's when I started to, I wouldn't even say fully understand it, because I think, like, I look back now as I'm older, and back when I was 10 years old, and I believe that, you know, there's an innocence when you give your heart to the Lord at such a young age. Like, even though you don't understand what it fully means to walk with the Lord, or I don't even think like, when you're older, you fully know what it means
Yeah.
to walk with the Lord. But I believe, and I thank God that He was able to see that innocence and still keep me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gave my heart to the Lord when I was 10. And I think that like ever since then, just looking back, I think it's just been like God's hand over my life. I think you don't even realize it sometimes, but certain situations that don't go your way or like don't pan out the way you like expected them to, or even like school. I think like I got into youth when I got into youth group, instantly I had friends. I
Yeah.
came into youth with a group of friends. We went on mission trips together. We went to youth conferences and like summer fires Ronan was talking about. And so like naturally, like I just thank God that I was able to have friends like that. And I think we'll probably talk about it later with the topic of friendships, but being able to like spur each other on and encourage each other, like you don't necessarily look outside or try to I guess be like the rest of the people in your school, because I think like your friends, we all want to, go after the things of God and stuff. And so like that's one of the ways I do believe that God protected me from, things from like the outside world and like
Yeah.
going astray on a path that wasn't for me. I don't have a crazy testimony or anything, but I think like having a testimony where, God's hand has been on your life the whole time is as great and is as encouraging for anybody else to hear. And so like now I'm just in college, working, and yeah, I think I'm still learning what it means to walk with the Lord daily and like continue to learn more and more about the character of God. And I think that, it's like recently I've learned like how much of a father God is to me. And like, you can cry out to God as your savior and as your Lord. And so yeah, it's a short testimony, but like I feel like that's where, I just wanted to talk about the preservation that like God has brought me to, and that like it's not up to me to kind of strive to keep up with God. Like God is in me, God is with me all the time, like He's next to me, he goes at my pace. I don't have to feel like I'm running or chasing after God. I don't have to strive, God's like, yeah, God has kept me like all these years, and that I'm grateful for.
Yeah, I love it. And you touched on something there. Both of you actually did, but just in different ways. And it's the keeping power of God. And I suppose to bring an example from my own life. Last Thursday, it was last Thursday. I was in work, and in Mahon Point, where the cinema area is, the cinema Sports Direct. That strip of tiles. There was two lads acting the idiot, like they were sprinting, running in and out of customers. One of them was throwing a chair from BB's around, and he was running towards me, and I stood in front of him and I grabbed him and had to put him on the seat literally and tell him to calm down. He was, because if I didn't catch him, he was going to run into someone else, or and I'm not joking. The Holy Spirit. So later that day, I had to do a report on what happened. And I was sitting on, Holy Spirit spoke to me and was saying that it's the same way I grabbed you, because if I didn't, that's what you were going and beyond my shoulder. Like, so, and it's crazy because, and I think you guys can testify, when you really open yourself up in the sense that like, Lord, speak to me today. He's not going to tear back the clouds and go, dear Ronan, how are you today? Read Proverbs 24. Now, he may encourage you to read a passage of scripture. I'm not going against that, but oftentimes for me, it's in work. It's like instances that happen, and the Holy Spirit is clearly just getting my heart's attention with stuff. And I just thought it was important to say that God is speaking to us in everyday life. And there's something I want to encourage you both with, because we've had many conversations in person over the last 2-3 years. And the one thing that really I really admire and respect about you both is that you both stuck with the task, even when those closest to you may have wandered away. Those closest to you, who you thought, you were going to be with for the rest of your life, whatever things happened, they're no longer here. And there's a tendency at that moment where you could have drifted away. You could have wanted to go that direction as well, but you stuck with it. And for me, that's an encouragement to know that the Lord has really done something solid in both of you. And I love the fact that he's brought you both together in a relationship. I do. I'm sorry. You know me. I love love. I love seeing people in love. It's awesome. And I didn't say that to make it sound cheesy or quirky or whatever. I said it because it's true. And yes, this is a podcast on friendship and aspects of friendship. And the first question I want to jump into is, I want to ask you both, and so feel free with some of these questions. If you both want to interject, that's totally fine. You can say as much as you wish or not wish, totally fine. The first question I have is, and I suppose it's a question where I want you to think about some of the friends in your life. What do they do that deeply encourages and inspires you with your walk with God? Interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's whoever can answer. It's not male or female, whatever, you know. But it's quite interesting to think of, you know, because when it comes to encouragement and being inspired, a lot of the times it's not necessarily what you do, but it's also what you don't do.
Mm.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? We often think, oh, you don't do it, but then it's like, no, I'm not going there.
Mm.
Yeah.
You what? Yeah, I'm not going to support that. He's my boy, and you're tearing him apart in front of me. That's not happening. You know,
Mhm.
or so it's quite an interesting one to think. But what examples for you guys? Do you have any examples of the friends in your life? Is there stuff that they do that actually you kind of go, whoa, there's something there with that, you know?
Mm.
I would say for me, it's like, I know Patrick, he's encouraged me a lot with like, just whenever you go in and chat with him, you
Yeah.
always leave encouraged.
Mm.
Like when you're dealing with something and you go to him, he always has something to encourage you with, or
Yeah.
like a story or an example of the time that he's gone through something similar, and then what he did, or also like what he's been reading lately, or
Mm.
like even a prayer that he prays as well. Sometimes, like, yeah, it always leaves me encouraged, and then it inspires me to go and read the word for myself, and not just get it from a Sunday morning or from someone you've been listening to, or just even Patrick or people like that, but you go and learn about it yourself, and
Yeah.
yeah, and encourage, and yeah, use it to encourage yourself. And also prayers as well. The prayers that people pray inspire me a lot as well. And then I take them for myself, and it really helps me. Yeah,
Yeah.
would be an example of
That's
that.
awesome. What about you, Tash? If you want, you'd like to interject, or
Well, I think like at the minute, like all my friendships have kind of like remained the same. But I'd
yeah,
say like things to me that like really stood out was particularly like when I was growing up and stuff that really I think would have shaped me. I like who I am right now. Like some of the things that like obviously like when you're young, like you do like stupid things or whatever. But I think like I was really surrounded by people who encouraged you to kind of, it's like we'll go to church on a Wednesday, we'll go to youth on a Friday, we'll go to church on a Sunday. And I know
yeah,
like it's, you know, you don't, it's not a thing of like if you're not there one time, it's not a religion, but it's just that
yeah,
of like going to church and going after the things of God. Like there was a time where we used to do it like as a group, you know, like you'd kind of, yeah, like you'd want to serve, you'd want to all kind of do this thing together to the point where when you get older and if like, you know, life happens, you know, I
yeah,
have friends now that have moved away, like they're in college or they're just working and stuff.
yeah.
But like that's still instilled in me now where I still want to go after the things of God simply because, you know, like, and I think my friends had something to contribute to that. Like
Yeah.
all of us together, we all had that, like we all had that impact in each other's lives and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, like I think those are times where I've really been encouraged to, yeah, to do stuff like that.
Yeah. I definitely want to say, because I have a point I want to make, and it's serving God with excellence.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I didn't say excellent to sound eloquent. I use that word purposely because when I think of my friend circle, like there's people who just go to church, you know, you go to Sunday, you clock in, clock out.
Mm.
But then there's people like you guys, there's people like Ben, Isaac, Patrick, Danny, Aoife. I shouldn't have started naming names because now I'm just I'm tongue tied. But you know what I'm saying? People who are involved in ministries and like you sacrifice a lot of your mornings, your nights, your evenings to pour into other people. And I love seeing people go the extra mile in ministry because it is a commitment. You know, it's easy for us to say, "Oh, I wish I had a Friday night off," but then if you miss a Friday night, you're like, "Oh, I wish I was with the kids." Legit, it's amazing how the Lord has really given me a solid group of people who I see people like you guys coming in early for youth on a Friday and doing worship practice. Like, I can't turn on a keyboard, never mind lead people into worship. I'm a great shower singer, but that's besides the point. But it's always encouraging to me because I always strive for excellence in my creativity, and then seeing people like you guys just operating at a high level consistently, even though outside of that you're holding down jobs, a relationship, college exams, and life. You know what I mean? So it's always definitely a refreshment to me to see that, like, yes, there's 24 hours in a day, but it doesn't always feel like it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I don't sleep anyway, so I shouldn't be complaining about that, but I am, so. But this is an interesting question I have here, right? How have your friendships changed or grown deeper as you got older? And I suppose I will interject as I allow you guys to think for a minute. And I think I was saying this to Tasha. I think I was saying to you recently about how growing up, when I was in my teenage years, I always felt like I had to talk to my friends every day. And legit, if I missed one day, it was like, oh, our friendship has fallen apart. They're mad at me. Like, legit, I was like, then I was getting so frustrated because I was always the one initiating conversation. And because I was doing it every day, and then it's often leave me on scene, I'm like, you're such an idiot. And then when I get older, I realize that I don't always need to be the one initiating the conversation. Then you realize that life is busy. People have lives. People are dealing with their own things. And sometimes they're just not in the right headspace to talk. So I suppose for me, I've been liberated in this way, where, like, I'm really good friends with you, Breezy, really good friends with Danny, Patrick, Ben, Isaac, Jordan, Nathaniel. And, like, the last time I talked to Jordan was 2 weeks ago. Last time I talked to Danny was 4 days ago. Patrick this morning. Nathaniel last week. But yet every time I talk to him now, it's like nothing has changed. So I think when I sound like I'm ancient, my goodness. When you get older, I definitely think that you become more accepting in your friendships that people are busy. Whereas in your teenage years, you took it personally. I don't know if I'm making sense, but I'm making a lot of sense in my head.
Oh no, yeah. What was the question again? Because I think
so how have your friendships changed or deepened as you've got older?
I think over the years, my friendships have changed. They've gotten smaller, one.
Sure.
And we were saying this yesterday, like me and Jerry, about how, like, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And, like, I think for me, as I grow older, I don't, like, it's not be all end all, but I think spiritual friendships are very important.
Yeah.
And the spiritual friendships that you have should differ from the other relationships you have with the people in work or the people wherever, school, college, and stuff. And I think that one of the ways my friendships have changed is I think we've become more comfortable with calling each other out, not in a judgmental way, not in a higher than thou kind of way, but in a way where you challenge each other, you encourage each other. And I think that's very important in a friendship, in a godly friendship, that, you need to be able to love and accept and to go after, to, like, a friendship to me is when I'm deflated, to remind me of the time when I had that desire for God. There's times in your friendships or there's people in your life that are, like, as you said, life happens and things are going to happen where they may feel down. And I think then that's an opportunity to, not just when things are good or when you see the person every day or when you talk to them every day, that's when, like, your friendship is at some type of high, but it's even when you don't see your friends, around, or they've changed, or when they had that desire for the Lord and they were so excited to go after the things of God. And sometimes people can lose that. And I think it's very important, especially Christian friends, to challenge that in people and to kind of bring them back along on that journey. And I think, like, that's one of the ways my friendships have changed. So yeah, I'd say, like, quality over quantity. And another thing I'd say is I hold my friendships very dear, but I also know that, like, I remember when one of my great friends, her name is Angel, it's her birthday today, and, like, I remember when she told me she's moving to England for college, I was like, oh my gosh, my life, like, what am I going to do? Because I used to see her all the time. And now it's like we're still great friends. You just kind of at different, not different life stages, but you're both at a different life stage. So your friendship is going to change and it's going to grow. But at the same time, I think friendships, it's okay for friendships to change, but it's also okay for friendships to end. Like Ecclesiastes talks about that, where there's a time for absolutely everything. And I believe like there's people that like we're no longer close, or like we're no longer friends in life, but there's no bitterness, there's no grudge, there's no like, oh, that's really awkward now, because I believe that God brings people into your life at a particular time. Sometimes like some people are there longer than others, some people there for a really short time, but yeah, without rambling on, like that's basically what I've learned like about the friendships and stuff.
Yeah. What about you, Breezy? You've got anything want to say, my man?
Yeah. Something similar to Natasha. It's I think as you get older, like even the stuff that you talk about as well changes a lot. Like you still talk about like or the same kind of things, like the next Marvel movie or like sports and stuff like that. But then also I think like even your conversation changes. Like it becomes, I think, more mature. It can be sometimes like you can talk about like what's going on in your life. I think like friendships have gotten more honest for me and like open. Like like most of the people I talk to now who are my close friends, like I would be honest with them and they'd be honest with me where they're at, and that we're finding that we had or we are having like similar struggles, and we can encourage one another and what's helped with that and how they got over it and just stuff like that. I just also encouragements as well, like what they've been reading or just what God has been speaking to them or teaching them. I think that changes. And also, like you said as well, that the need to text people every single day changes as well. Or even if you don't see them for long periods of time, you can just pick up where you left off. And then also, I think, friendships change as well, or people who you thought you'd be friends with to the very end are no longer around sometimes. And you learn, well, not that they were ever fake friends, but you just learn who your real close friends are. And I think also the more like you do ministry as well, you'll build deeper friendships as well. And even if they do, God calls them somewhere else or something like that, you'll still be friends with them and you'll still pick up where you left off. But it definitely changes.
And can I say one more thing? I think as well, like you just touched on something that I feel like when you're younger, your friendships, they tend to be more about like things that are in common, or even like looks wise, like the person wears the same clothes I do, or you can be very like first impression kind of person. When you're younger, you look at someone and it's like, nah, like couldn't really be friends with that person because like they don't really look like me, or they don't dress like I do, they don't like talk like I do. But like one thing in ministry is the type of people that you meet. It's like I would have never imagined in a million years that I'd be friends with this type of person. Or like even like Jerry, like we're, there's an age gap there, but still we tend to have a lot of meaningful conversations that you remember when you leave that person. And like I think that youth ministry has done that to me. Like we all have, serving the Lord is our common goal. And so like the rest of the stuff, like the music you listen to, like I don't know a thing about American football, but like I guess I can share that kind of joy with you when you're talking about boxing or American football or KB, because it's like you are a friend to me. And I just want to say that.
I suppose I wanted to interject myself. I just something was brought back to my mind there. You'd have conversations with people. You'd be standing in a circle. Like there'd be 4 or 5 people in a circle. You'd be just chatting. And I remember there was a period of time where I would always find myself getting lost in conversation. Like legit, at the time, I wasn't a Marvel fan. I thought Marvel was the most pointless movie sequel ever existing. People were talking about different scenes and different effects on the camera. I'm just like, it's a movie, get over it. But there was often times there where people would be talking about stuff that I just had no interest in or no desire to have any interest in really. And I would feel very lost. I'd be in the conversation where I'm like, yeah. Wow, and I'd be looking around the room hoping that one of my friends that had something in common and would come in just so I could rush over to him. And I remember it was a Wednesday night. Pastor Patrick, he pulled me aside. He said, "Hey, can I have you pull you for a chat?" And I was like, "Oh crap, I'm in trouble here now. What have I done?" Do you know? And he said, I just sense it from the Holy Spirit to speak to you in this way. Don't feel like you can't talk about what you're passionate about when you're talking to people. Because oftentimes, I think you guys know it, I would love to talk about Jesus, spoken word, life, good conversations. And I always felt like for a long period of time, there wasn't people that I could really talk to on that level with, because they're either not at that level or they just don't have any interest. And I remember when I began to open up myself in that way, and stuff that I was talking about on at that time in spoken words or preaching, God just brought people along that I wasn't expecting. I thought he was going to bring people along in my age group. I thought that was going to be, but he didn't. He brought people along who were much younger than me, people who were much older than me, and the conversations, yes, they're different in terms of depth because different life stages, but I get to explore and share about stuff that I'm passionate about. And God is just, I suppose what I'm really trying to say is, when I opened up myself to not feeling lost in conversations, that the Lord brought the right people along. And that's been something that I suppose has been really a great help to me. So I no longer feel lost in conversations. I feel like I could talk to anyone about such and such because I've got a core group of people that I get to share my dreams with, or and things like that. But Tash, even to go back on a point you made there, quantity over quality. So if our listeners didn't know, there's 24 hours in a day. We sleep for 8. Well, I sleep for 4. Work, I usually work for 12. You gotta shower, eat food and stuff. So like out of 24 hours, you have maybe about 4 or 5 hours to yourself if you're not studying for an exam or stuff like that. So when you said about quality, I think quality is so important, because I can't do quantity because I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
Quality is different. And I think we've already mentioned it in, I suppose, a roundabout way. Quality is something that lasts a strong length of time. Like you can go to, I don't know why I'm thinking of this, Tesco's. You can get a Tesco brand bar of chocolate, and it's edible, whether it's flavorless or not, that's another point. Or you can get a Cadbury's bar of chocolate, much higher quality. There's a sweetness to it. There's a long-lasting taste. And I think that's the importance. As you get older, you'll realize that we always strive for quality over quantity, because quality is something that's going to carry you through life. And I just think it's so important that you mentioned that, because when I was a teenager, although I didn't have many friends, I had people who I think more so tolerated me more so than were my friends. And the small group of people I had, I think everyone knows it at this stage, that I lost a lot of my friends, my core group of people, to suicide. And when you're a teenager, you feel like you have to be friends with everyone.
Yeah.
When you're an adult, you realize you don't want to be friends with everyone. Sorry, that's a bar. When you're a teenager, you feel like you have to be friends with everyone. When you're an adult, you realize you don't want to be. Sheesh. That's a trademark. That's mine there. No copyright issues.
Yeah.
But not that you don't want to be, but you just don't have the time, and you realize that time is precious, because when you're older, you have to fend for yourself. You're independent. You have a job to work, relationship to hold down, ministries to serve in. Life just happens, and when you're a teenager, life doesn't really happen. You don't really have a life, so you're looking for a life to fill your time. So I definitely think it's important that you mentioned that, Tash, because I had some sort of a reference point to mention on it. And another aspect of friendship that is key is encouragement. And I was under the impression, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, make myself sound old again, but sure, look, I'm halfway to 62 now. I'm 26 in case you haven't guessed, soon to be 27. I used to think that you graduate beyond the need for encouragement. You get to a stage in life where I was encouraged the whole way through my teenage years, and now I don't no longer need it. And how wrong was I? I think when you're an adult, I think you need a lot more encouragement than when you're a teenager. Because when you're a teenager, the only thing you care about is how you're perceived by people.
Yeah.
You don't care about the storms of life because you're not really experiencing storms of life. A storm to you is when your friend leaves you unseen, when a friend breaks your Snapchat streak, or when they ghost, when you text someone and they ghost you. Well, I don't like it either. My goodness. But yeah, like I suppose in what ways for you guys, not like personally or even towards your friends, how does encouragement play a part for you both? And as you're thinking or whatever, right? I want to interject and say this. So I get the honor of being able to preach in youth every couple of weeks, and people may not know this about preaching, but I often sit at this desk here with my laptop open, my Bible open, and I'm preparing a sermon. Sometimes it takes longer than others, but a lot of times the Lord will speak in my devotional life. And yes, the preparing is great. I got my headphones on, I'm listening to KB and I'm going, no chains on me. Yeah. Prepare my sermon. And then you get up and you preach. And the hardest part for a preacher is when they finish their sermon. The enemy, I'm not joking, the amount of times that the enemy will come down and whisper to me and say, oh, you didn't say enough there. Oh, no one responded to your message. You didn't talk enough about Jesus. And I can honestly say this, and he doesn't know I'm going to say this. Ronan, in recent weeks, not last year, in recent weeks, man, the amount of times that I've got off that pulpit and felt like I didn't do the word justice, or I could have expanded on a particular area, and you've come and you've been so specific in your encouragement. And what you don't know is in that moment where you've come in with that encouragement, you have dispelled the accusations of the enemy to the point where the whisper, it was just a whisper and it just went. So thank you for that. And I suppose that's what I'm trying to say is for people is everyone that you're friends with needs encouragement. Even your parents, your pastors, your leaders, but more importantly, your friends. And for you guys, I suppose, is there any particular ways in how friendship, encouragement from friends towards you has been a blessing, or is there any way you like to encourage your friends?
Yeah. So I'll start with like how I'm encouraged, or like who kind of encourages me. Like I would say, like first of all, it's actually my dad who encourages me a lot. Like I can go to him about just anything, and just something that I'm going through, or just something that happened maybe during that day, and I just need his advice on. And I would go to him and he would challenge me if I needed to be challenged, or just encourage me too. And he always encourages me to just go back to the word. And sometimes it takes longer for me to realize that I actually just should go and do that instead of go to other people and get more encouragement. But I should start by going to God and going to his word first. But a lot of the times I don't. And that's kind of the last thing I go to. But that's a journey that I'm going on. But also, I would also say you, Jerry, as well. Like you've encouraged me so much, and you always encourage me of what I'm doing, like just how I'm involved in the church, and just the job I'm doing as well. So you always encourage me. So thank you for all that. And just the friend you've been too. And then I would also say like people like Patrick and Ben, when I'm going through things, I know I can turn to them, and they would always bring something to me, challenge me, and just encourage me. And then also Natasha too. She's been a huge encouragement, and she always helps me, which is great. It always points me in the right direction, which is what I need a lot of the time, and what's the right thing to do as well. So it's been good. And then the way I would encourage people is usually like something that God has been sharing with me. Or something that God has shared with me, or a past thing that I've gone through. I would use that and encourage them with that if it was something similar that they were going through. And also, I think when you hear that someone's praying for you as well, I think that can mean so much too. So I always try and tell them that I'm praying for them, and then I do go and pray for them, even if it's like a short prayer. That's okay. It means the world to people. So I think that's always important to do. So that's what it's for me.
What about you, Tash? Grant, you want to interject?
not that I'm stealing his answer, but I would say like my dad, like my parents as well. Like I think like my parents have been, they're my parents, but they're also my friends. They're two of my greatest friends, my greatest supporters. Um, and I think like that's important with encouragement, that like, like when you think of like plants and stuff, they use the word encourage to mean that you nurture to this, you attend to it, and you water it, and that's what it, so that it grows. And I think like my parents have been two key people in my life that have constantly made that happen. I mean, they're my parents, so like there's a sense of them that that's their responsibility. But like I think my dad, because like as you said, when you preach, the minute you get off, it's like, oh my goodness, it's just like this wave of just like doubt, or this like feeling of like inadequacy, and that like you're just not the person to do it or whatever. And I think like I would never say it, and I've never said it's like a lot, but that's something that I would also like deal with. And I think a lot of Christians would deal with it as well. But, like particularly when you get up on and like you need worship or something, which is something that I can speak on, and in youth, and it's like you get off and it's like, oh my gosh, did you even like, what did you even say? Did you even like sing right? Or like, did they even whatever? And like all these things just like fill your mind. And I think for me, the number one thing I do is, my dad always told me that it went exactly the way it was supposed to go. That it's exactly the way God wanted it to go. I remember there was one time I had open worship, and I had like my notes and everything, and I thought it was like a good enough opening, like when I had prepared for it.
Sure.
And I got up on stage and I completely froze for like it felt like an eternity. I'd say it was only like 5 seconds, but it felt so long, and I was so discouraged when I got off that stage. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I froze like that. And I remember I went to my dad and I said it, because I kept saying it. That's one thing that I do, is I always just like I just like always say it's like something I do to like as a coping mechanism or something. My dad was like, Tasha, you need to that it went exactly the way it was supposed to go. For all you know, God is doing something, and he obviously was, that I'm not aware of, in that 10-second gap, in that 10-second pause and break. And so that's something for me that I just give it to God. And that's what I would encourage other people to do as well, because that's how it works for me. Like as Ronan said, you need to look to God first. He's not the last source of call. He's your first. He's your first source. He's your first port. And yeah, like I was just always, because it's not, we don't need validation. It's not affirmation we need. It's the encouragement. So
That's
like
right.
like I don't need people in my life that are just going to like affirm my every move. I need people that are going to be with me on the journey every step of the way. And that's vice versa what I need to do for someone else as well. And so I think like pointing them back to God, pointing them back to the person who can help them even better than I can, is the best source of encouragement you can give to somebody. Because I don't know, I think we're all human. And like one thing I would always like, sometimes when you get like, if I'm being honest, sometimes when you get off stage or whatever and someone's like, oh, that's really good, it's like if they don't say it one time, it's like, oh, is it not, like, did I not do like well or something? And I think that like, if we're all honest with ourselves, that's something that a human can deal with. And so I think that's why it's, without like repeating myself, that's why it's super important to make sure that like it's God that you hear from first, and then everything else will kind of be like I don't know, like an add-on. But the encouragement of other people, it shouldn't be like, you know what I mean. But I'll stop there.
I love it, because what I'm sensing that you're both saying is it's operating as a friend from the place of knowing your acceptance and affirmation. So you don't, as you said, Tash, you don't have friends for the purposes of affirmation and acceptance, because first and foremost you have your acceptance and affirmation from Christ. So because of that, you operate from that place, which is it's more freeing, because if you don't know that place of acceptance and you hope to get friends for that, I'm telling you, you will have a miserable life with miserable friends, with a miserable optimism about your future, about your fate, which I love that, knowing that from myself. Like, I can encourage someone not because I need encouragement myself, but because I'm encouraged If I read
Yeah.
something, it's like, oh, bro, let me share this with you, or you know. And if there's something I've been doing, there's two things I do. Not to put myself on a pedestal. I think you get why I'm going to say this. I'm
Yeah.
a bit old-fashioned. I like to write letters. Why do I do that? Because it takes time.
Mm.
It's easy for you to send a text, good job, exclamation, fire emoji, rocket emoji. When you sit down to write a letter, you have to structure it, right? It has to flow, there has to be a middle ending. I like doing that. And I'm not going to say who I've written a letter for, blah, blah, blah. No one needs to know, but that's just something that I do. I like to do it periodically, just when I feel, I suppose, a burning desire in my heart to do it for a particular person. But also, I find myself praying this prayer a lot lately. It's that I'm praying for my friends to make it out of the battles that they don't tell me about.
That's
Wow.
good.
Yeah.
You know, because I get it. Like, there's certain battles I feel more comfortable telling my mom about than my brother.
Mhm.
You know, like, it's just the context of relationships. You know, you're obviously, I'm more closer to my mom than my brother, but I'm closer to Danny than I am to Emma, but I'm closer to Emma than I am to my oldest brother. You know, and it's not to put them on a pedestal, but that's just the reality. You know, so I definitely find myself praying for that, especially if I don't see someone in church. I'll shoot them a text, hey bro, missed you today. I hope you're doing well. Most of the time it's they're working or they're away or they're tired. Sometimes they won't text back. I get that, but it's for you to know that you were thought of and that you were
Yeah.
seen. Your absence was noticed.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another.
Another
Woo! Man, yeah. Your absence was noticed. Wow, that's not a spoken word coming. Relax, relax. It's not. But I do want to take a moment, lads. We've talked a lot on this podcast with friendship, encouragement, journeying with friends. I think journey is quite a common one that we're talking about. You know, journey, quality of friends, and I want to thank you guys because everything that you've both spoken about, you model. And no, I'm not saying this because it's expected they're in front of me, blah, blah. No, I honestly can't say this about everyone, but I can say it about you both. And what you do is you guys, you don't force yourself to be in company where you're not valued. Does that, I hope that's, I'm trying to make sense with what I'm saying.
Yeah. No.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I do it myself. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where my presence or my self-worth is going to be degraded. I know who I am. I don't need you to tell me who I am. And if that's not reciprocated or welcomed, I'm totally fine with going, hey, adios amigo, but me and you are not going to lingo, you know? But I mean it. For our listeners that don't know, you guys have had a busy day. You're in the middle of preparing for a Christmas production that is going to bless the lives of everyone that comes to it in person, but also the people that watch it online in the weeks, days, months, and years to come.
Yeah.
You know, and as you said, Tash, there's a big age difference between us. I think there's maybe 5-6 years. I'm making myself sound ancient again. That's the fifth time I've said it because it's true. But I love that. That's the one thing I've learned is that I can have friends who are much younger than me and also much older than me, and yet they can be such a nourishment to me on my journey of faith. I'm so thankful that when I look at you both, like, we're so different. Literally, I'm from the UK. Ronan's from Donegal. We won't hold that against him. You know, and Natasha, your heritage is Zimbabwean. I mean, and I can actually say your name properly now, Kamukwede.
Yeah. Thank you.
Whereas I used to always say, oh, I did. You know?
Yeah.
But I love it. We can laugh about it now, but I'm so thankful that it's the differences that make our friendships unique. And I really mean that. There was a many times I used to hate that. I was like, we're so different. It's like, oh gosh, I can't talk to him unless I talk to him about worship music. I'm like, I don't listen to worship music except on a Sunday or a Wednesday. Well, side note, I like to listen to a bit of Casting Crowns. People and Songs are my go-to as of lately. They are sensational. The way they write their songs is emotional, it's spiritual, it's liberating, you know, but it's excellence. But I really, I suppose in a roundabout way, I want to thank you. You know, it's a Saturday evening, you guys could have just chilled out and went to see a movie or whatever people do to chill out nowadays. But I mean it. I believe that we will be friends for a long time because we already are, and our friendship just gets deeper and deeper. As you said, Tash, our conversations are always, they're actually conversations where you walk back and go, that was actually really good. I was quite refreshed by that. And I don't have that ability to say that about a lot of conversations I have with people, but the friends I have, I can say that about. So thank you guys so much for giving up of your time, for saying yes to coming on to the podcast first and foremost, for coming on and being a blessing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It was good
thank
laugh.
you.
It was good fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited to see like the other podcasts that are going to come out and stuff.
I am too, because you spend so much time recording them.
Yeah.
Getting them lined up. And it's like I literally on my board in front of me, I have people that I have to text first, and I couldn't reach out to them until I got a certain podcast done because my brain is about to go into overdrive. But yeah, I believe it will be a blessing to everyone and anyone that listens to it, because there's a reason why I asked you both to come on. You are dear friends. It is effortless to talk to you. If I was to talk to you about a whiteboard marker, I'm pretty sure it'll be an interesting conversation. That's just the depth of our conversation. Our friendship is a testament to me. It's a joy to consider you both dear friends. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jerry.
And for those of you that have listened, thank you for giving up of your time to listen or watch this podcast wherever you have tuned into it from. Do me a favor though, right? I say it all the time. Give it a like. Give it a share. Why do I say like? Because if you're watching it on YouTube, what YouTube does is, depending on the number of likes, YouTube will begin to promote it on YouTube. That's why it's so important when you give a thumbs up, because YouTube takes notice of the traction. Why do I ask you to share it? To invite other people to come in and experience it. Maybe those who don't even know Jesus yet, or those who do, that it will be a nourishment and an encouragement to them. But till next time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember that hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. Take care. God bless. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Hope Sessions podcast with me, Jerry D. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're tuning into it from. This greatly helps to spread the word about the podcast, but also to encourage other people to check it out for themselves. Until next week, take care, God bless, and don't forget, hope is to life as oxygen is to the body. Take care.